is Rajavidya, Rajaguhya, the royal knowledge, the royal secret. Pratyakshaavagamam. It is directly realizable. It is something that you can attain that state through direct perception. Pratyaksha. Pavitram idam uttamam. It is supreme purifier. Many places in the Shastras, this knowledge is compared to the wind or the breeze. Like when you find any place locked up for a while, it starts smelling foul. The air is foul. And the moment you open the windows and the doors, you find the fresh air flows in and it purifies all the impurities of the foul smell. In fact, to the extent where it is said, even when you have a wound, they say, provided you keep it clean, away from dirt and dust, if it is exposed to air, it heals faster. So the wind heals wounds. It removes the foul smell. So it's a purifier. So the wind is compared to this knowledge. So this knowledge is supreme purifier. Purify of the mental agitations. The mental agitations that we have is due to one's own egoistic transaction with the world. The more the ego one has, greater is the friction one experiences with the world. The lesser, the more I try to lessen my ego, to that extent there is less friction with the world and there's a greater harmony. So how do I create peace within me is by relating with the world without any egoistic transaction. So the knowledge gives us the ways and means how you could see yourself in others. Ego, the moment you have an ego, I separate myself from the rest, isn't it? When I have an ego, the I and the my, when you have that I and my, it is separating you from the rest of the world. The more you use the word our, you are encompassing, you are inclusive. But when you have I or ego, it is exclusive. It's me. They say exclusive store. Only meant for certain people, not inclusive store. Exclusive. So when you are exclusive means you are egoistic. When you are egoistic, there is friction. And where there is friction, there is internal agitation. You have lost your peace. This is the logical thought process. Now you want to bring back the peace and happiness within, you will have to be inclusive. Inclusive means you have to nullify your ego. So when you nullify your ego, there is greater harmony with the world. There is no mental agitation. There is oneness. This is from a relative standpoint. Now, the supreme purifier, when you say a supreme purifier, the absolute level is where when I look at Pushpama, I only see the Atman in her. When I see Shivaji, I only see the Atman in him. When I see Jai Shri Ma, I only see the Atman in her. When I see the empty chairs, I see myself there. And I see people online also, I see myself there. But I have a little October 2nd also, they're not coming here. They're conveniently sitting in the house. It's a government holiday also. What, Dr. Venkatramji? On a 2nd also you can't come. This is not acceptable at all. You say this is the only day I get, I have to be available for my family. If I come today also, then what will happen to me? So
you are absolutely right.
identification with you all is little less.
You are right.
I know. The balancing act has to happen, no?
Yeah. Life is all about balancing act.
Yes, sir. So when you, how are we trying to explain the supreme purifier? The supreme purifier is the agitation arise because of your own ego and desires. So when you remove the ego and desires from within, I only see the Atman outside. I see myself, the self reflecting everywhere. There is no friction at all. There is only peace and harmony. The absolute level, relative level, the more you work on removing your impurities of ego and desires, there is a greater identification, there's a greater oneness. So you are resulted. Here is no impurity within me. There is no agitation within me. Supreme purifier is this knowledge. Again, compare it to the wind. Just like the wind purifies the foul smell, this knowledge comes in and purifies all the mental agitations. Pratyaksha vagamam, we already explained, directly realizable. Righteous. Righteous means it is in that which pertains to dharma. The word dharma, dharmyam, means righteousness. What is it? The only thing that is righteous is the path of the self. The only thing that our dharma is the attainment of the self. Now remember the definition of dharma. The definition of dharma is an essential aspect of a thing. Dharma is an essential aspect of a thing with which it is what it is, without which it is not what it is. Dharma, the essential aspect of a thing with which it is what it is, without which it is not what it is. Now, when I ask myself, it's easy to understand with reference to the world, isn't it? The dharma of a cow is to give milk. The dharma of a flower is to bloom and give fragrance. The dharma of a carnivore is to be ferocious. The dharma of the sun is to give light. The dharma of the cloud is to give rain. Now, what is a human dharma? What is the dharma of a human being? Is your dharma your feelings and emotions? There are times you feel high, there are times you feel low, there are times you feel inspired, there are times you feel dejected. Is your mind and your emotions your dharma? Are your thoughts your dharma? Is it how you think? Is that your dharma? Are your actions that you are performing your dharma? What is your dharma? The family that you have developed an attachment to, is that your dharma? The organization for which you're serving, is that your dharma? The business that you're running, is that your dharma? The society whom you're concerned about, is that your dharma? What is your dharma? Now, if you look at all of this, whether your feelings, whether your thoughts, your actions, the society, the business, the family, whatever you think, The one thing that creates, what is it that creates? All that I've said. Sanjay, what you may call as dharma today, your family, your society, your social service, your actions, your emotions, your thoughts, etc. All of that today, which you call as your dharma, what do they, including your body and your actions? Huh? What is it that they do to you? First of all, are they your dharma?
No, they're not my dharma.
Why do you say so?
So one aspect of that is it keeps changing. So at different points in the life, something different becomes what I might consider to be my dharma, which means that that can't be it because it keeps changing.
No, just because it changes doesn't, it means it's not your dharma. No, you have
Okay.
a point. I'm not saying you're wrong.
I suppose it's a veiled question in a way. Then can dharma, is it okay? Can it change?
When you were a child, you had a certain dharma towards your parents. Now as an adult, you have a different dharma towards your parents. You have a dharma, before you were married, you had a different dharma. Now you are married, you have a family, you have a certain dharma. So those roles which you are playing, you may call them as dharma, but you say they are not your dharma just because they're changing. That's what you say, isn't it? What else do all of that do?
It defines.
Sanjay, I'm sorry. Remember, we are trying to explain the concept of righteous. The concept of righteous, the word here is dharmasya. And we said the true dharma, that is not difficult to answer. The true dharma is your atman, the self. Everything else is not your dharma. Now I'm only asking, what are the arguments you can give and convince yourself that my true dharma is the self, not the actions I perform, not the social service I render, not the family I'm relating with, not the actions I'm performing, not the feelings that you feel. None of that is your dharma. Only the self or the atman is your dharma. So I'm only asking, what are the reasons that we can come with to say that none of these are my dharma? It's like, it's very straightforward to say the dharma of a cow is to give milk. It has no other dharma. Now, is there anybody in this classroom who is identifying with his dharma? Sadly, sweeping statement, I can say none of us are. Most of us are identifying everything other than the self. We are identifying with the non-self. Now, give me reasons why all that we are associating, which we think is our dharma, is not our dharma. You are not being righteous if you say, my dharma is to my family. My dharma is towards the society. I must give back something to the society, no? I must serve my organization. That is my dharma, no? All those arguments will not justify here, because rightfully so, that is not your dharma. Talking of from an absolute standpoint, yeah? I'm just relating with Sanjay, then we'll come to you, sir. So you get Sanjay, where am I coming from?
I completely get where you're coming from. I think maybe I'm just I'm not moving as quickly to give an answer, but I get where you're coming from. It feels like all those things are attached to the ego that you just mentioned. So my job, my family, my parents, it's all attached to the ego. That's where I'm at the moment. I know that's not a complete answer. But I'm with you.
Yes, you have a point there. All that we are claiming ourselves to be dharma end up being an egoistic transaction. My family, my this, my that. And wherever there is that feeling of I and my, there has to be that element of friction. It causes mental disturbance, it causes agitation. Anything other than the self is not your nature. Like if you buy a packet of sugar from the market and if it doesn't taste sweet, you go back to the shop and rush and say, man, you didn't give me sugar, you gave me something else because it doesn't taste sweet. How do you, then he asks you, how do you say so? Sir, please put a pinch of it in your mouth and you taste it for yourself and tell me, is it taste sweet? No, it does not taste sweet. Even he will assure and agree with you and say, sir, it's not sugar. Sorry, there's some mistake, packaging error. By mistake, it's been branded as sugar. Now, what we are trying to tell here is every other action, everything else that you associate with is limiting, is binding. It binds you to the world. So ultimately, it is not the righteous thing for you to do because you will not be, as we often say, you must always comfort your conscience. Never ever confront your conscience. You must always comfort, not confront. Confronting your conscience happens when you are bound and attached. So you may ask me, sir, how do you come up with this so-called explanation? In the 18th chapter of the Gita, the 66th verse, very famous verse, he says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhya mokshayishyami ma sucha. He says, you must renounce all your dharmas for my sake alone. Sarva dharma parityajya mamekam. Because that only then you are true to yourself. But if you have developed a binding to any dharma, my family, finished. You will have to pay the price of your attachment to your family. You're limiting yourself. It's like you tie a rope around your neck and you peg yourself to the ground, and that is the freedom you have. The family alone becomes the liberation. To that extent only you are liberated, to that extent you are bound. If I bind myself to this organization, I am bound like a leash around my neck to Wisdom Foundation. Alawali, take. I should not be bound to this organization. You and I need a banner to work. Like you and I need a home to stay. But should I be bound to that family? So, all we are saying is the essential aspect of your personality is not your action, is not your emotion, is not your thought, is not your family, is not your job, it's not your grad degrees, it's not your social status, it's not your applause, it's not your wealth, it's not the name and fame you've created. None of it is your dharma. Your true dharma is yourself, which is your essential aspect, nothing else. The essential aspect of a thing is what it is, without which is not what it is. The self is your essential aspect, nothing else. That is when you are being true to yourself. Righteous, dharmasya, Everything else causes agitation. That's what you're saying. Nothing else. You should drop everything else. Is binding, bandham. Susukham, as we explained, Susukham Kartum is very, very easy to perform, very easy to practice, is because you are going along with your conscience. When your actions are supported by your conscience, you find an action is very comfortable. You're very happy. You enjoy doing it. But when your conscience doesn't support you, you find it very difficult. The passage or the action or the process is very difficult. There's a bhayam. There is an insecurity involved. So anything that you go towards the world, such actions are very difficult to pursue. But any action that is towards the self, you go with the flow. And then he says, avyayam, you become, once you reach it, you become permanent. It's not impermanent anymore. Why it's not impermanent? Because it's your true nature. Nothing changes. You become the changeless because it's your original self, your original nature. You're all able to relate to the concept. Venkatramji.
Yes and no, Guruji. I think it is slightly complex. Dharma as what we were learning and understood till this time. So probably, it will take some more time for me to absorb and all. But so when you say that your dharma is only righteousness towards yourself and nothing else, then what are the other things which we do and then which are also used in a general language in terms of, you have to do your dharma and this is what it is. Normally it is said.
That's why I classified it or qualified it by saying from an absolute standpoint.
Okay. So relatively still these things will hold good. But from an absolute standpoint, you say that is the final.
Relative standpoint, please allow me to take this example of your family. If you're attached to your family, are you being righteous? Are you being true to yourself?
Well,
if you're attached to your money, attached to your name, attached to your business, if you're attached to them, are you leading a righteous life?
Don't know. I mean, it's very difficult to answer. No, attached to your family or a responsibility towards your family or your work or whatever you do. I mean, attachment and responsibility then.
They are two different terms. Whenever we use the word attachment in this classroom, do you know what attachment is?
Well, you don't have to, I mean, if I have to put it in a simple language, you really don't have to worry about the outcomes. You do your actions and then don't get agitated by whatever the outcomes are.
Sir, attachment is your relationship or wrong relationship with the world.
Okay.
Attachment, I repeat, is nothing but your wrong relationship with the world. So when I say you're attached to your family, it means you are establishing a wrong relationship with your family. What is that wrong relationship? Attachment is a selfish relationship with your family.
Okay.
You're attached to your job. You're having a selfish relationship with your job. We're not talking of your responsibility. We're talking about your wrong relationship with it.
Okay.
So wherever there is a selfish relationship, that relationship causes mental agitation. It disturbs your mental equanimity and peace within. And the moment you have lost your mental peace, that means you have committed a sin. I have committed a sin.
Okay.
So tell me, all the dharmas one assumes in life, do they give you ultimate comfort and peace within? Or do
No.
they give you mental agitation and insecurity and restlessness and commit a sin?
No, they give the later.
They give you, sorry?
They give the later, whatever those words you described.
They give
Agitation
later.
again, yeah.
Yeah. Therefore, it is not your dharma, sir.
Okay.
Therefore, you have to be detached to everything that you perform. Therefore, I quoted the 18th chapter, 66th verse, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. Can you raise yourself to that level where you can give up all your dharmas? Sarva Dharma Parityajya. Mamekam means while you are in the world, what are you seeking? I'm only seeking the self. In your job, what are you seeking? I'm only seeking the self. What are you seeking through the family? Family is a means to an end, not an end in itself. So I have got into the family only to get to the self, not to bind myself to the family. I've got into business because business is my vasana, but not to get bound to business. Use my business as a means to evolve and serve a larger cause and ultimately realize myself. So you can attain moksha sitting in that chairman's seat. You can do your dharma for moksha. What will stop you from thinking of moksha, performing your dharma responsibility, as you said?
Okay.
What could stop a lady sitting in the house, cooking and preparing food for the family, not thinking of moksha? Can anything stop her? Nothing can stop her. It is not what you do, but for what you do. The problem is all the so-called dharmas, we are bound by it. We are attached by it. Therefore, the only dharma that is righteous is the self, nothing else.
Can you please repeat this sentence? What you do, but for, you just said one.
Sir, what I only put it in simple terms, is not what you do, but for what you do. So it could be a lady sitting in the house, cooking and taking care of the family chores. Some may say, oh, she's just a homemaker. No, it doesn't become any less just because she takes care of the home. Just because she's preparing 2 meals a day for the family. No, the job doesn't become any less because you're doing that. It is for what you're doing. So the thought of the higher can be in her mind. So every action of ours is an offering to the Lord. Like the day of a festivity. What is the thought in the lady's mind? Huh? She makes everything as a prashad, as an offering to the Lord. That there's purity in thought. There's association of thought with the Lord. Work becomes an offering, a prayer. It's worship. So real dharma, sir, the entire Bhagavad Gita, the first word of the Gita starts with the word dharma and ends with the word mama. So the entire Gita is telling us mama dharma. What is your dharma? And here is his knowledge which elucidates your dharma, which is Jai Shrima. What is your dharma? Dharma is your own self, Atman. Nothing else. Society is not your dharma. Nothing is your dharma. No, you may relate, but then you say, I have. What is a standard word you should utter? I know UK knows it, she'll say it. Just be unmuted, just hold on, ma. Master Jayashree ma. You remember the favor that the word I keep saying, that words you must keep constantly uttering to yourself. Don't utter to others, utter to yourself. Can you remember? No. UK?
Namaste Guruji. It is, I have nothing to do with it. And it is my
have-
mantra nowadays for me.
Oh, your mantra also. Very good. Ramji, please remember that. Take note of that.
He will not be bothered, Guruji.
How does it matter if it bothers or not? You will say, I have
Yeah,
got
that
nothing to
also.
do.
Yes, yes.
Correct.
Very true.
Bothers or not, that is not your botheration.
Yes, yes.
Now you understand, sir, what is the struggle morning to evening at home. Yes.
I will not relate to you. I'm on UK side. Not RK side. I'm on UK side. So that's when
See,
it becomes-
Guruji, the point is that you may be detached from all these things, but they should also be detached, no? Otherwise, if your family, your business, your all other engagements, if they're attached to you, then your detachment is only halfway, work, So this question is always there in my mind that how do you bring this same level of understanding among all the people with whom you are dealing?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Now, I was saying that I might feel detached with many of my family or business or my work, everything, but they should also feel detached, right, with me. Otherwise, what will happen is that it will lead to stress. The stress is what
Who stress?
for both.
Why?
Because
Expectation.
expectation
Because,
will be
because you say you're detached. No? How can there be
Yes.
stress to you?
I may not be stressed, but the others' stress will cause me stress. that is the problem. See, if I am detached, I know you have been saying that you should be in the market and still be detached, and that's what we try to do. But this problem we face sometimes, that you need detachment from both sides. But I agree with you that if I am detached, I should not develop any stress, or I should not worry about that.
See, to the extent you are detached, to that extent it will not affect you. It should not affect. But to the extent one is affected, you have to be true to yourself. To that extent you are attached. This is the law of life. This is the principle we're talking about. So to the extent you are detached, you are liberated. And by you being detached, you are able to inspire others to raise up to your level. If you are not detached, you have no right to say to others, be detached. What basis can I say that? I can't say. So they say, Ramatirtha says, your obligation is not only that you evolve, in the process of you evolving, you take your family and society, everybody along with you high, to the greater heights. So the primary obligation for you is to you evolve, is to you realize the self. Doesn't matter what about others, it's their journey, it's individualistic journey. Spiritual journey is individualistic. So whether they are attached or detached, it is their personality, it is their prerogative, it's their life. Their problem, their headache. Don't make their problem your problem. That is not being unconcerned, sir. It's just being.
I know. Yeah. You have to discharge your responsibilities, but at the same time be detached. If
Absolutely.
I understand correctly. Yeah.
But it's a detachment has been misunderstood to be
Unconcerned.
Sorry?
Guruji,
indifferent.
that is the dilemma, that indifference what we would exhibit either in our body language or in this thing. If the other person is not evolving, this was the exact dilemma which I had earlier when you were talking about the righteousness and all. If everybody evolves to that level, then I think it is a much more homogeneous kind of a society. Otherwise, at different phases of life, I mean, I don't think there is a solution. We have to continue like this and hope for the best.
See,
I don't.
being indifferent is a tamasic quality, sir. When you are indifferent, you either do not perform your actions, you don't recognize your obligations, or you're unmindful of your actions you perform.
Not perceived to be indifferent. We are not indifferent, perceived to be indifferent. I mean, you can't be an emotionless person in the world. I'm saying in certain times, you also have to express, your emotions, or probably, kind of reflect and then also look at, okay, what is that, kind of did not work out, or things like, I mean, I don't know, I'm not getting the words, but this is often, I don't know whether Ram Tirtha and all of them had families and all. It becomes slightly more tougher in a family environment. In corporates, probably you can get away here and there a little, but I mean, this is a dilemma. But what you are saying, I'm not disputing any of this. Absolutely, you are right. And that is a journey with which, we have to travel. But yes, we will keep confronting these situations and hopefully will evolve.
So what you need to remember, you cannot practice detachment. So don't try to practice it. You'll make a
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
The problem is people try to practice detachment. Don't practice it. That's where the problem comes. What you practice is you practice attachment to the higher. When you are attached to the higher, to that extent, you are automatically detached to the lower. And the true detachment will not create consequences. Only false exhibition of detachment creates consequences. A person who is truly detached, for him, there's no problem. He's inspiring. He's all encompassing. And a person who is detached, so detachment is not a physical quality. So please mark my words. Detachment is not a physical quality. It is a mental attitude you exhibit to your possessions or to your relationships. It's a mental attitude. Attitude of you remain unaffected by it. That doesn't mean you don't feel the joy of others. That doesn't mean you don't feel the sorrow of others. But what certainly will exhibit is that you're established in something higher. You'll inspire them to lead a far more purposeful life than just getting caught up in the meaningless, frivolous things. Not interested in all that, certainly not. But you feel for them. What gives joy, you will be able to identify with them. But your job is to pull them up from where they are to a higher level, inspire them. So it's not a physical quality, a mental attitude you carry. An inner abstraction. So you don't practice it. What you practice is you practice an appreciation for the higher. The lower abstraction you have that gets exhibited. You can't practice a lower abstraction. What you practice in higher appreciation. When you keep getting attached to the higher, is like, sir, often example is given. When a flower blooms. When the petals of a flower drop, that's when a fruit emerges. Isn't it? But you can't expedite the process of by plucking the petals and expecting the fruit to come. It will not come. So only when the lower drops, then the higher comes. So you get into, first you get established in the higher. Then don't worry of the lower. Nothing will happen. Without getting established in the higher, if you're trying to practice detachment, it will have negative consequences. So therefore, we are never advised to practice detachment. We are only advised to practice attachment to the higher. The rest will follow. Now, before I take up Sanjay's clarification, can you just scroll down the chat box, please? Or scroll up, rather. Tinkima, she asked something. Can one not fulfill one's responsibilities without being attached? How else will one exhaust their vasanas? Absolutely right. Yes, you can. I think we have clarified that you can perform your duties and responsibilities without developing an attachment. When does one develop an attachment? When one looks at something as an end in itself. Family was only a part of your life. Don't let it define your life. Now you are letting your family define your life. Why are you letting it define your life? It is just a phase of your life, my dear. If it is a family is gone, you are gone. Did you come with your family into this birth? Lovingly, with all your love, on Dashara day, go and tell them, I am planning to leave. Will you all come along with me? I have given so much to you all. What will your family say? They say, they'll bid adieu to you, farewell to you, but say, you go forward. If you plan to move on, move on. We still have a lot of things to do here. We are not going to come. Nobody is going to come with you. So much you're concerned of your family don't care about you. When your time comes, you will have to go alone. So what family? Family is only a means to an end, not an end in itself. Now you are worshipping the family. Just walk out of your family. Just walk out. Mentally. Mentally walk out of the family, not physically. Don't get me wrong. I said detachment is not a physical quality, it's a mental quality. Mentally walk out of your family and embrace a larger family. Your home should be the center of love, not the boundary of your love. You've made a boundary. My. Sick. It's sickening. That attachment is sickening. All you have, you'll only give to my family. They may not need it, but still I'll give to my family only. Family should be a means to an end, not an end in itself.
No, but here, Guruji, but here in this case, he walked out mentally or physically. Looks like he went away physically.
Sorry?
Here, in this example, he walked away physically. Looks like.
Who?
This example of Madam Shivakami is asking one query to you.
No, I didn't read her example. Okay, as you direct me to her, I shall read example. Soumyama is asking, I have a query to ask. One of my close friends' husband at the age of 50 left his wife and 2 aged girls and went off all sudden telling the family doesn't want to continue family life. Tamasic fellow.
Good.
He is practicing spirituality externally, not internally. These fellows are so-called fake spiritualists. They have renounced the world externally, but not internally. A man of renunciation will not renounce the world unnecessarily. This is called rajasic renunciation, which is fake renunciation. Because he has experienced pain, he has given it away. That kind of renunciation is false renunciation. In fact, sattvic renunciation in the 18th chapter, I don't have the exact reference, but I can come back to you with the reference. In the 18th chapter, he says sattvic renunciation, he defines it as performance of karyam karma. You get the Venkatamji, get the definition. Sattvic renunciation is defined as performance of your obligatory duties. So what do you renounce while you're performing? In the corporate, in the eternal wisdom also we talk about it. When you renounce, what you renounce?
The fruits of action.
Sorry?
The fruits of action.
Fruit is only one aspect, but what do you renounce? Fruit falls under what category?
Fruit falls under what category?
Think, sir.
I said, renounce the fruits of action is what I thought.
Yeah, renounce. Only one, the fruit is only one aspect. What is it that you renounce? So any action has two aspects to it. The essential and the non-essentials. Now, before I come to the essential aspect of an action, what are the non-essentials of an action? Venkatamji said is the fruits. The fruit of your action is a non-essential. Sounds strange because you're only acting for the fruit and they're saying non-essential is the fruit. What else is the non-essential? So what you renounce is the non-essentials. So what are the non-essentials of action? Aparagaru, one word answer.
Expectations.
Perfect. You renounce your expectations. You may call it under fruits, but we'll submit. What else? Outcome also is the fruit. What do you renounce? Annapurnama rightly says you renounce your doership attitude. You renounce also your enjoyership. You renounce your egoistic notion, your ego. You renounce your attachment.
Enjoyment.
Is there anything else?
Enjoy.
You also renounce your complexes. What are the complexes? Superiority and inferiority. For no reason you feel superior to someone. For no reason you feel you are lesser than someone. Ego expresses in three different ways. Ego is different to complex. They all stem from it, but ego expresses as I am the doer. I alone exist. I am supreme. It has three branches that it expresses, which is different to the superiority and inferiority
I am
complex.
supreme.
Sorry?
Supreme. I am the doer. I am the supreme.
Please,
only.
mute everyone, ma. Yeah. Okay. So these are the, yes, Ashama, you're very right. What you renounce is very good. You renounce your motives to action. These are all non-essentials. Now, what is the essentials of an action? Ramji, what do you think is essential of an action? 1 point.
Action itself.
Alright. Considering I have to perform the action,
Action, that is
yes, sir.
no, sir, I can't think of action. I was thinking that you have to act, which is the most essential part, because I think many people, I mean, that's what I was thinking, that many people become actionless because they're thinking of all these non-essentials. They will think that who will get the credit, what will I get out of it, what do I, no, all those things. But if there is something else, I don't know.
Getting attached to the higher.
Getting attached to the higher. And what is that? Very well said, sir. The essential aspect of an action is it must have an ideal or a goal or a purpose. And all of this indicate it must be unselfish. One of the essential things before you act is it must have a goal, something for a higher purpose. Without which action is directionless. And all the, like Ushama is saying, non-attachment is again the opposite of it. We can't just put the opposite here. At the same time, Sudhakarji is talking of karma bhakti out of context. I think Apparav said sacrifice. Again, it is under unselfish. The moment you have a higher cause, it has to be sacrificial. Spirit of yajna, Tinkima is saying, yes, again, it's the spirit of unselfish. I can't again use the word detachment, it is the opposite of attachment. So the only thing you need is, essential is action. Second is, whenever you're acting, it's very important that you have the capacity to identify with obligation. It is very, very, very important. You should know whether it is your obligation or not. Otherwise, you may be doing wrong action. You must be obliged to do it. If you are not obliged to do it? You should not do it. Only when you're obliged to do it, you should do it. And when you say obliged, what is it that decides whether it's obligation or not? Annapurnama, when I say obligation, what is it that determines whether it's an obligation or not?
Hari Om Guruji.
Yes, ma'am.
Obligation refers to the renouncing of our or shunning our family duties, our social duties.
No.
Sorry.
Obligation means where you have no choice but to perform. Obligation means I'm obliged to do it. So when you do not
Correct.
recognize, when you don't recognize your obligation, you may abandon something which you ought to do. You may end up doing something which you ought not to do.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
if you allow me, this morning before I came to the class, Annapurnama and Sridharji, they have been involved with doing Annadanam for over 6 decades. Every Sunday they do Annadanam for hundreds of people. 100 people come every Sunday. And they found a need to invite me this morning and be a part of that offering. Be a part of that exercise, of that auspicious service that they render. Apart from the context of why they wanted me, it was an invitation that came my way. Guruji, we would like you to come and perform the Annadanam this Sunday morning. Now, when that invitation came my way, it was for me to decide, am I obliged to do it or not? Isn't it, Annapurnama?
Yes, Guruji.
And I was so thankful. It was a humbling experience to be a part of that seva and spend an hour there. But it only could happen because something in me could operate to identify my obligation. I performed it.
It is our pleasure, Guruji. It is our honor, Guruji.
No, I know you have done with such love and such purity. It would have been wrong on my part to reject an invitation when I'm not doing my action correctly, isn't it? I'm just giving a context. Just before I came here, I spent an hour there experiencing it. But what I just did, nothing great. I did my simple act, but what I did was to identify it an obligation. Like that, many such invitations that keep coming your way. But it's for me to identify and find out, is it my dharma? Is it my obligation? Is it my duty to perform? That is an essential element of right action. Thanks, Ma.
I understand, Guruji.
So I can think of these two elements. One is to have a clear goal, and also these capacity to identify obligation. What action you have to perform with reference to obligation. And this capacity belongs to, was the question. Prakash Ragaru, this capacity to identify obligation with falls under yes, sir.
Essential actions.
Essential actions. But my question is, what is it in you that decides whether it's my obligation or not? Sir, my neighbors.
It is myself.
Sir,
Myself.
for example, my neighbors, friends, sisters, daughter is getting married. Should I attend the wedding? Don't ask me how the connection again. I can't get to the chain again. My neighbors, friends, sisters, daughter is getting married.
Sir.
And I happen to get the invitation. I don't know how. But is it my obligation to attend or not? What would you say, sir? If it's happening in Taj Mahal, I'll come because of you. Prakash Rao will be there. I can
Selfish, sir.
see him. Huh?
Will it not be selfish, sir? You are having a choice
I have a
to
choice.
attend or not.
Correct. So I have a choice to choose. So what is it that determines the right obligation is a sharp intellect. When you have a very clear head on your shoulders, you clearly can take a call because you have a choice at all times to take it or not take it, accept it, reject it. But it's the intellect that takes that choice. So you end up doing the right action. So you weigh the pros and cons and then decide, am I to do or not? Like I have an invitation by an organization to give 4 lecture series, 4 lectures on a weekend. Saturday speak for 4 hours and Sunday speak for 4 hours. Now I have a ready audience. I just have to say yes or no. And there's a dilemma. Am I to go or not? Something in me tells me not to go. I may not go. So you may ask me, sir, what basis? That's my intellect. I'll have to give you reasons why it is, why it is not. Just because something comes your way, should you grapple it? So that apart, I don't know where we got into this, the non-essentials and essentials. Once again, please show the chart, Rajima. So just those of you who have not captured it, please capture it again, the non-essentials of action. Sanjay, what are the non-essentials you have written down? Can you see the board? What are the non-essentials?
Yes, Guruji, I've noted them down. So the fruits of the actions, the expectations, doership, enjoyership, ego, attachment, and superiority, inferiority complexes.
And the motives. The 8th
Ah.
one is the motive.
Okay.
So the non-essentials of action, they dissipate your energy. So you renounce the non-essentials and enjoy the essentials. So you renounce. Renunciation is to do with the lower. Renounce the lower and then you enjoy the higher. You wanted to clarify something a little earlier?
Yeah. Is it fair to say, so it feels like what I can do is once you attach to the higher, this word perform keeps coming back. And it feels like that's what I need to then do. So once we attach to the higher, then life is just a performance and everything is like your duties to your family. You have to perform them to the best of your ability according to what they need. Your duty to your job, as long as one understands that I am the actor and I'm performing these duties, then things like neglecting your family or walking out on them, that means you're not performing correctly.
Correct.
So everything is just now a performance, and we have to manage our audience. We have to use our intellect and read the audience. But it's now from a position of I'm not the one doing it. I'm the performer of all these things. And it feels like the more that you're explaining, the more that feels like that's how one needs to be. Be a performer of actions, not the. Don't tie yourself too much as you are that action. You're the performer of that action. So you have to decide what is the best action at every stage. But yeah, that's just a thought I had.
Yeah. It is never abandoning any action. So therefore, you need to have the right clarity to identify the right course of action and dedicate that action to a higher cause. Renounce all the non-essentials. You are a picture of perfection. Relatively, absolutely. Doesn't matter. Just keep going on. Keep doing it. Okay. Yes, Hariji.
Guruji, what is the role of conscience in deciding my obligatory duty? When we are telling only intellect, the conscience also plays a vital role, is it not? It's what you have taught us earlier.
Question is, what is the role of conscience in identifying one's obligation? Conscience doesn't help you identify the obligation. Having identified, it will tell you whether right or wrong. If you identified wrongly, it will either tell you right or wrong. If you identified wrongly, it will tell you right or wrong.
No,
Whatever you decide, the conscience doesn't have a choice.
No,
Conscience only points out.
Guruji, if you say if I decide means my intellect, I can decide only with the support of the intellect.
Correct.
The decision is taken by the intellect. And if the intellect takes the decision, this is my obligation, then the conscience immediately jump, yes, it is, no, it is not. So,
So that's why I'm saying that the choice is not made by the conscience.
Nor intellect.
No, intellect makes the choice.
Yeah.
Conscience only points to the right. Anything other than that is wrong.
That means there is a possibility that even if the intellect shows me this as my obligatory duty, there can be a possibility that the intellect goes wrong, because we have ultimately depends on the conscience, is it not?
Sir.
Yeah, please.
Intellect develops in stages.
Yes, sir.
With my 10% intellect today, the choice I make doesn't necessarily echo in my whole life as correct choices.
Okay.
At a later stage, when my intellects become 30%, I look back at my choices I made at 10%, I say, and Napa, what is wrong choice I made? I shouldn't have done that. Don't I look back at my own choices and say, I wish I didn't do that? But what happened to the clarity then? You didn't have that clarity then.
Yeah. Or so, sometimes even if the conscience act as my marinates compass, I ignore. We act against our conscience, and later on we repent.
That apart. So
Yeah,
when you made a choice with 10% intellect, your conscience may not have supported it.
okay, yeah,
You still went ahead because you didn't heed the conscience. That apart. That
yeah,
is another
yeah.
consequence. But conscience, to the question, it is the
Yeah.
intellect that makes a choice. Conscience does not. Conscience only points to the right, to the righteousness, to the truth.
Yeah.
So it has no choice.
Okay. But I have one more query about the attachment. So when you are talking detachment, can I equate that as liberation? Ultimate aim is to liberate myself. Non-binding, and when we say binding means I am not liberated.
Yes. If you're attached, you're bound. If you're detached, you're liberated. You can say so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Aparagaru, you made a point. I don't know whether it still stands. I'm just seeing your comment now. Any action that is not identified with the self is obligation. Am I reading it correctly?
That was my perspective before you explained the obligation. Basically, when I meant that when you're not really interested, for example, you're talking about the wedding invitation, you're not actually interested, but you still were forced to go. Even though that is obligation, that's what I felt. The meaning of obligation is I am not interested in doing something, but still I have to do. So, and if I'm not identifying that particular action with self, then I call it as obligation, because it is not helping me in my upliftment in any way. So it is an obligation for me to do the thing just because it's only a check mark for me. It is not with my true self. I am actually taking that particular action.
Correct. So when you act on obligation, you don't see whether you like it or not. In fact, non-essentials, in fact, as you say this, the 9th point in the non-essentials is your likes and dislikes. You have to renounce your likes and dislikes. You are not operating on emotions. 9 and 10. 9 is likes and dislikes, 10 is emotions. You may not like to do it, you may not feel like doing it. For example, I may say, I don't feel like talking because there are only 4 people sitting in the auditorium. None of you have a clue how many are seated here. But I have to put aside whether I feel. Obviously, you need to have an audience to talk. I may not like to do this. No speaker would like to talk to empty chairs. But yet I have to do my dharma. This is what I'm offered. I put aside my mind's emotions and I just do my duty.
Because you're associating yourself with yourself. That is the reason you're doing it.
Associating myself with myself, I identify with yourself, is it?
No. With your higher self, Guruji. When I'm saying self.
It's okay. Higher self, I agree with. Correct. No, that's where you're right. So when you have an identification, as I said, the first obligation is you identify with the goal. So when this action is a means to serve a larger purpose, everything else is immaterial. Doesn't matter. Because what inspires you is the cause. Opposite of a cause is, Venkatramji, what is the opposite of a cause?
Opposite of a cause.
Because I'm saying in the context, when you have a cause, the cause itself inspires you. When
Yes.
you don't have a cause, what is the opposite of a cause?
I mean, lack of any purpose. I mean, exact opposite, I can't recollect, but I mean, there is no, it is just like a random thing which you are trying to do.
Sir, I'll help you with this, with a context, explain myself. Somebody is driven in your organization to serve the cause, which is the welfare of the organization.
Yes.
There are also employees in your organization who are not driven by the cause. What is that? What kind of people they are?
They are like, I don't know what word to use, but they don't have any passion. They're like morons, just doing it as a robot without any.
They don't have the passion or the
Passion,
drive to desire. What they have is, as Hariji has rightly said, it is selfish. They are opposite of a cause is they need incentives.
Incentives.
You need to throw perks at them to get work done. Now, can you all tell me what perks are you throwing at me to get me to do my job? All of you put together, think, have a roundtable conference meeting for yourself and say, what am I doing to this man for this man to do what he's doing to us? Not to you. I'm not doing just to a handful of you all. My goal and vision is far greater. My goal is self-realization. If this, it can happen with this, or if it can happen without this, I'll rather choose the way which gets me to my goal of realization. If this is the route to get me there, I'll use this route. If this route doesn't get me there, WF closed. Banner is no more existing. How does it matter? But I'm so proud to say I don't need an incentive to work. Because all I need is inspiration. Loftier the goal, the greater the inspiration. The loftiest goal has the mightiest of inspirations. Self-realization is the goal. It needs nothing else but the goal itself to drive you. Nobody, nothing is required to drive you. I will still keep driving forward. That kind of action, purest of action is it doesn't need any incentive. No incentive at all. Go look at Charlie. I'm talking from the bottom of my heart when I say that. Purest of action is it no incentive at all. There's nothing I need to enthuse me to work. Oh, the first has come, I'll receive my salary. What salary? There's something new will come my way. What will come my way? Everything will roll by. Action must continue. And that's when one is righteous. So we stemmed out, all the discussion we had is we were discussing the term dharmasya, righteous. And it's a very relevant discussion because the point we made, righteous, is every other dharma of yours, you're not being righteous. The only dharma is you're being true to yourself, is to attune yourself to your attainment of yourself. When you are striving to the attainment of yourself, you are righteous. Rest all is unrighteous. It's not your dharma. Okay. We'll come back. Namudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Namah. Hari Om.